Have you noticed recently how our pace of life has been getting faster and faster by the minute? We drive faster cars, sorry, speak faster in our conversations, and we consume more and more fast or convenience food. But why is this? For some, it's because it's quick and easy in a time-poor era. For others, it's the cheap price tags. But to me, these ultra-processed foods herald a new dark age in how we eat, one that could change our lives irredeemably. That is, if we don't act to stop it. First up though, a quick history lesson. The very basic forms of food processing came, as you might expect, from 250,000 years ago, give or take, when humanity learned to tame the wild beast at his fire and cooked the meat they hunted for. When the first agricultural processes became known, we could ferment, bake, mill, or preserve practically any food. And this kept us going for a good 15,000 years further, until companies realized that, to make as much food as possible and turn a profit, they needed to produce everything as cheaply as they could, which led to the Nazi government trying to make butter out of paraffin in 1940s Germany. The 50s and 60s ushered in a new age of technology for many around the world, but especially in places like the US. Here was a time with space-age gadgets, new technologies, and most importantly of all, a complete lack of any forward planning, because this consumerist era caused many adverse health effects in the long run, especially in terms of what people ate, drank, or smoked. The science behind why all this was so bad had been examined since the 80s, yet a definition wasn't really used until 2009, when a team of Brazilian researchers came up with something called the Nova Scale. And this ranks foods on a scale from 1, basic ingredients like potatoes, eggs, vegetables, or fresh meat, all the way up to 4, ultra-processed foods like pizza, crisps, ice cream, and most soft drinks. According to Carlos Montero, who fronted the team, one of these, an ultra-processed food, or a UPF for short, is, and I quote, an industrially formulated edible substance derived from natural food. Sounds tasty, right? So that's a quick look through these foods' past. What about their present? As a geography student, I've always been told by my teachers to look at ideas like these through 3 different lenses: socially, economically, and environmentally. And that's how we're going to examine these. So, without further ado, here's the social problem. It's undeniable that these foods affect our physical well-being. I mean, just watch Super Size Me. But for the uninitiated, consuming these Group 4 foods has been linked to obesity, where the Pacific Islands are the highest, hypertension, common in sub-Saharan Africa and Eastern Europe, type 2 diabetes, where Pakistan takes the lead, and even cancer. Do you notice how the West is much higher? It's no wonder. All the countries and regions I've mentioned consume, on average, the most UPF. And the sheer lack of fiber, vitamins, and minerals mean we simply can't function. Here we are, compared to those obese countries. What about our mental health? In May last year, the New York Times reported that researchers at the same university as Montero found the link between the consumption of these foods and a decline in brain function. A latest study by Harvard found that those in the top 20% of consumption were 50% more likely to develop depression. And a look through my own school canteen found a surprising amount of potassium sorbate in some of the soft drinks, which we knew caused hyperactivity in children as early as 2007. Not exactly what you want in your Friday afternoon maths class, I know. But seriously, we knew about the dangers of this chemical before I, or any of the other kids in my year for that matter, were even born. So why are we still giving it to our kids? But it's folly to paint the food itself as the only problem here. City University of London claimed in November last year that, on average, UPFs were more likely to be bought by low-income people, due to the low price point and the long shelf life. On the other hand, because richer families can afford to keep their fridges stocked with healthy alternatives such as fruit, they're more likely to, on average, live a healthy lifestyle. And there are many places around the world where it is practically impossible to get anything other than these foods. Places you might expect, sure, like the Sahara, Antarctica, and the Himalayas, but also places you might not, like that small village down the road from you that's only really got a little shop open twice a week. So all this means is, in summary, if you want to live a healthy lifestyle in today's society, you have to be born into a rich, well-placed family. How messed up is that? Finally, and perhaps most importantly, we need to talk about how these foods affect our environment. Just take palm oil. Half of all ultra-processed foods have it. You've probably had it at some point today. Yet the deforestation that must be done to harvest it destroys countless species of animals' habitats, as well as polluting the air, water, and soil of over 500 million in Southeast Asia alone. On a more global scale, the carbon dioxide that's produced as it gets deforested will only enhance the greenhouse effect further. And what's more, the ultra-processing and ultra-packaging of these products perpetuates the problem, leading to the total food industry making up 1/4 of the world's global carbon emissions. That's more than the US and India combined. We know that this is so bad for our environment. So why are we still using it? Well, I'll tell you, it's here. It's easy for me to stand up here and lecture you all on why these foods are bad and why it's completely your fault that all this is happening. Because let's be clear here, it's not. No matter how much money they pump into spin doctors, the blame at the heart of the ultra-processed problem is corporate greed. Just take a look at all the companies that just 12 major conglomerates own. 10, sorry. Yeah. I don't know about you, but when I was cutting down on my own ultra-processed food intake, I found it hard to get rid of just one of these, let alone all 10. And what's more, this map was created 10 years ago, in 2014. Just imagine what it would be like now, in a time of hostile takeovers and hyper-capitalism. And there are forces that act upon these companies to make sure they turn a profit. 9 of the ones you saw there are on the stock market, only Mars isn't. And this means that they can be owned by, well, anyone really, from you or I to even national governments. Norway owns just south of 3% of Nestle. So all this means bigger profits at the expense of bigger people. And they've even been known to pay academics and professionals to support their messages. Don't worry, I'm not one of them. You can trust me. But seriously though, is the suffering of many for the profits of a few really the sacrifice that we should be making? That being said, it'd also be wrong for me to order you to never go to the supermarket meal deal section again, for example. It's alright to have these foods from time to time, just so long as they don't dominate your diet. And it's not all doom and gloom. Some countries are, in fact, taking steps to pull their citizens out of this problem. Just take Chile. They're probably the gold standard in all of this, because in 2016, they introduced a new system of food labeling. Here it is. And these clear black octagons have been designed to convey as clearly as possible that these foods are incredibly bad and that you should not eat them, in simplistic terms. And these have educated just under 20 million people since their introduction 8 years ago. What's more, in Chile, you cannot, under any circumstances, advertise a group 4 food to a child. Just take a look at what breakfast cereals are like in Chile versus just across the border in Argentina. Notice how the cartoon tiger has been replaced with these warning labels. But it's in my view that we need to go a step further and subsidize this fresh food so that everyone in the world can have the standard of living that they deserve, no matter how much they've got in their bank accounts. Another idea could be for this to go global and have an ultra-processed food warning around the world, with information on why this is so bad on the back, to really drive home the message that, no matter where you are in the world, the only positive impact from eating ultra-processed food is to the wallets of shareholders. So while I was writing this script, I learned about an ancient primate called Giganto. Here he is, chilling in the savannah. And due to climate change, Giganto switched their food sources from nutritious berries on the trees to less nutritious, but much more abundant, twigs and leaves on the forest floor. 20,000 years later, Giganto was extinct. There it goes. And in a sense, you can see some parallels. 350 million years ago, the ancient primates entered a new dark age of eating. 350 million years later, we could do the same if we don't make a change now. So, here's one final thought to leave you on. I promise this is it. When you go home tonight, take a look through your fridge or through the supermarket shelves and have a look at the ingredients on some of the back of the products. There's a good chance you'll notice a few things that sound more like they belong in a science lab than in your body. And perhaps that'll inspire you to free yourselves from the shackles of UPF and make a change for yourself, for your community, for our planet, and perhaps most significantly, for us, the next generation. I'm Noah Davidson. Thank you very much and happy eating.